Muhammad ibn Abdullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters, welcome to our weekly class on the explanation of the book of fasting from Bulugh al-Maram min Adillat al-Ahkam al-Imam al-Hafidh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullahu ta'ala. Naam, okay, so the volume, the voice is clear. Okay, khair, inshallah. Okay, so today, bi'idhnillah, we will start with the next hadith. An Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma قال ترى الناس الهلال. On the authority of Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, who said that the people went out to sight the moon, to see the moon. فأخبرت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أني رأيته. So I informed the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم that I saw it. فصام. So he صلى الله عليه وسلم fasted. وأمر الناس بصيامه. And he صلى الله عليه وسلم commanded the people to fast. رواه أبو داود وصححه ابن حبان والحاكم. It's been reported by Abu Dawood and authenticated by Ibn Hibban, and it's authenticated by Al-Hakim. And it has also been authenticated by Ibn Hazm and An-Nawawi. And from the Imams of our time, Al-Albani has authenticated it, said it's Sahih. So has Ibn Baz and Hassanahu Al-Wadi'i. And it's Imam Muqbil Al-Wadi'i. He has declared it to be Hasan. So it's an authentic hadith. The next hadith in the same chapter, on the same topic, so we'll take both hadiths together. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن أعرابيا جاء إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال إني رأيت الهلال. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, he said that a Bedouin came to the Messenger of to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, indeed I have seen the crescent, the hilal of Ramadan. فقال أتشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, do you bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah? قال نعم. He said yes. قال أتشهد أن محمد رسول الله. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do you bear witness that Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yes. قال فأذن في الناس يا بلال أن يصوموا غدا. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya Bilal, O Bilal, announce to the people to start fasting tomorrow morning. رواه الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان ورجح النسائي إرساله. It has been narrated by Khamsa. And when Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar in Bulugh al-Maram, when he says Khamsa, it means the fourth Sunan and Imam Ahmad. Yes, he means Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, An-Nasa'i, wa Ibn Majah. So it's been reported from by the Khamsa, authenticated by Ibn Khuzaymah, Sahah, declared Sahih by Ibn Khuzaymah and Ibn Hibban. وَرَجَّهَ النَّسَائِيُ إِرْسَالَهُ. As for Al-Imam An-Nasa'i, then he says, as for Imam An-Nasa'i, then he said that this hadith is mursal. It is mursal. And mursal is from the types of hadith which are weak. And mursal is when the tabi'i, who is a student of the Sahaba, he misses out from the chain the name of the Sahabi. And he directly says the Prophet ﷺ said this, the Prophet ﷺ did this. This is mursal. And mursal is a type of weak hadith. So this hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, it has been reported in two different ways. It has been reported as mawsul, meaning to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through a connected chain, through a fully connected chain. And it has been reported as mursal, meaning without mentioning the name of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma in the chain. So it's been reported mawsulan, and it has been reported mursalan. And we've mentioned that some of the scholars like Ibn Khuzaymah and Ibn Hibban and Nawawi, they authenticate the hadith and said it is mawsul, it is authentic. Said it has a connected chain all the way to the Prophet ﷺ, and Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma is the Sahabi who narrated this hadith. Yes, but most of the ulama, Abu Dawood, An-Nasa'i, Ad-Daraqutni, and other than them, and from them is Al-Albani wa Ahmad Shakir, they said that this is mursal. The correct position is that this hadith is mursal, so it is da'if. It is da'if. Tayyib. So we have two hadith here. The first one is 100% authentic. And the second one, the correct position is that it is da'if. But the first one suffices because it's about the same topic. And what is that topic? The main topic of this hadith is that how many people need to see the moon of Ramadan, the new moon of Ramadan, for it to be accepted and for us to begin fasting Ramadan. Okay, so this is the main topic of these two ahadith. Okay, so the first thing is that's exactly the first thing that we are going to talk about before we take other benefits which the ulama have mentioned when explaining this hadith. So the first main point that we're going to talk about is the adad, the number of people that need to see the moon for Ramadan to start. There are two opinions. There are two opinions. Now, the first opinion is that one person is sufficient, even if it is a woman. One person is sufficient, even if it is a woman, even if it is a slave, with the condition that this man or this woman or this slave is a Muslim, is a trustworthy Muslim, is a trustworthy Muslim. What do we mean by trustworthy Muslim? We mean by trustworthy Muslim someone who is mukallaf, and ameen, someone who is mukallaf, yani he is baligh and he is aqil, and he is someone you can trust. Okay. So for someone's report or someone's testimony, in this case his reporting of seeing the new moon, for it to be accepted, it's very simple. It has to be a Muslim, trustworthy Muslim, who's baligh, who's aqil, and who has good sight. Who has good sight. Yes. So if that's the case, then the testimony is accepted from this man or this woman or this slave, and we start fasting Ramadan. So that is one opinion. And normally somebody might say that when it comes to testimony, to two women is a testimony. Yes, and that's correct. When it comes to hukuk of the people, it is relating to wealth and property and hukuk and so on and so forth. Yes, but the scholars who say that a woman is acceptable here, they say that this is not a testimony of that nature. Baligh hit puberty, yes. Exactly. So that the testimony here is not of that nature. Here they say that this is from any min al-akhbar, min al-khabar ad-dini. Yani you are informing others of a religious matter. You are informing others of a religious matter. Just like when narrating hadith, you are informing others of a religious matter. And in riwayah, when you narrate hadith, there is no condition that there must be certain number of men or certain number of women. A man's narration is accepted, and so is a woman's narration, as long as they fulfill the conditions that are required, and that is in mustalah hadith terminology. As long as they fulfill the conditions of being trustworthy, reliable narrators, their narrations are accepted. So in the same way, sighting of the new moon, this is from that angle, that this is, they are informing others of a religious matter. So it is similar to riwayah, narrating and relating of hadith. And also the fact that one person is accepted, what is the sir, the secret behind this? The secret behind this is that this person, he is free of blame. He is free of blame. What do we mean by free of blame? And he's not someone who you can accuse of lying or blame him in this case. Why? Because by his testimony, or him testifying that he has seen the new moon of Ramadan, he is making a binding upon himself and others the fasting of Ramadan. Why would he do that? What benefit is he going to get out of that? He's going to get no benefit. Rather, it's kind of a hardship to start fasting and stop eating and stop drinking, and to cut off your desires. And this is a form of struggle, yes? So why would a person want to bring that upon himself a day before he should, or 2 days before he should? Whereas when it comes to fitr at the end of the month, then yes, there could be some any blame here. You could accuse a person here. You could say, oh, you only said that because you want Ramadan to finish and you want to start eating and drink again, and you want to, do this and do that. But at the beginning of Ramadan, that doesn't exist. It's the opposite. You could say intellectual of only having one person's testimony accepted to mark the beginning of Ramadan. Second opinion, however, is that no, there has to be two. You have to have two people who both come forward, two trustworthy Muslims who come forward and they inform the authorities that they have sighted the moon, and only then can you start fasting Ramadan. Otherwise, you can't. Do they have proof? Of course they have proof. They have several proofs. They have several proofs. So obviously, just to mention, the first opinion that says only one person is enough, their main proof is this hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar. He said, I informed the Prophet ﷺ, him alone. And the Prophet ﷺ accepted it and asked the people and commanded the people to fast. And also the next hadith, which is weak, but we can use it here as a support, as a supporting evidence about the Bedouin who came to the Prophet ﷺ and informed him of seeing the new moon. The Prophet ﷺ accepted his testimony after he found that he is a Muslim, and commanded Bilal radiyallahu anh to announce to the people and command them to start fasting tomorrow. So this is their main evidence and proof, which is clear cut. Now, what do they do with this proof? The second group of people who say that no, you can't start fasting unless you have two people, two trustworthy Muslims who have seen the moon. So they have authentic hadith mentioned by An-Nasa'i, Ahmad, Daraqutni, authenticated by Al-Albani, Ibn Baz, and the authority of Raḥmān ibn Zayd ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhuma, who was from the Sigar al-Sahaba, from the younger Sahaba, that he gave a khutbah to the people, a sermon. He delivered a sermon to the people on the day of doubt. On the day of doubt. And he said, I sat with the companions of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I asked them. And they informed me that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Sumu li ru'yatihi wa aftiru li ru'yatihi wansuku laha. Fast when you see it, stop fasting when you see it, and perform Hajj when you see it. فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُ فَأَتِمُّ ثَلَاثِينَ. And if it is cloudy or unclear for you, then complete 30 days. وَإِنْ شَهِدَ شَاهِدَانِ فَصُومُوا وَأَفْطِرُوا. This is the point. And if two witnesses testify, then fast and break your fast. Meaning fast at the beginning of Ramadan and break your fast at the end of Ramadan. Now, so from this hadith, what can you understand? This hadith has mantuq and mafhum. Mantuq is explicit, as we mentioned yesterday, and mafhum is what is implied, implicit, and what we can infer. What is mantuq is very clear. Two witnesses to start Ramadan and to end Ramadan. Mafhum, what is understood from that, is that if there's only one, don't start fasting in Ramadan. If there's only one, don't stop at the end of Ramadan. Meaning, starting of Ramadan and end of Ramadan, both times you need two witnesses. If it's only one, not acceptable in both circumstances. Now, that's what this hadith shows us, yes? Also, they use qiyas, analogy. They say, look, This is a testimony for citing the new moon of Ramadan. Huh? And this resembles, or this is same as giving a testimony for citing the new moon of Shawwal. There's no difference between the two. They're both are same thing. This is a shahada for citing the new moon. This is a shahada for citing the new moon. Both are shahadas for citing the new moon, so they're both the same. They have to have the same ruling. They both have to have the same ruling. Okay, what is the correct position? The correct position is the position number 1, the first. Okay, why? Because the hadith that we have just mentioned of Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, okay, we'll take the questions inshallah in about half an hour inshallah. Okay, so the correct position, dear brothers and sisters, position number 1. That one person is sufficient because of the hadith that we have mentioned of Abdullah ibn Abbas, of Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, the authentic hadith. Now you might say, okay, what do we do with this hadith then? What do we do with this hadith? And there are other hadith that are mentioned. There are also hadith mentioned. There's another one I'll mention to you there's few. I'll mention another one. It's been authenticated by al-Albani and reported by Abu Dawood, hadith 2339, that the narrator said that a man from the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, people differed in regards to sighting of the hilal of Shawwal. They differed on the last day of Ramadan. فَقَدِمَ أَعْرَابِيَّانِ, 2 Bedouins came. فَشَهِدَ إِنَّ النَّبِيِّ, and they testified in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ that they saw the new moon of Shawwal last night, the previous evening. أَمَرَ رَسُولُ ﷺ أَن يُفْطِرُوا. The Prophet ﷺ commanded them straight away to stop fasting. وَأَنْ يَغْدُوا إِلَى مُصَلَّاهُمْ, and that the following morning they are to go to the musalla and establish the Eid prayer. So here again, how many people came forward? 2. Okay, so now what do we do with this hadith? So as we mentioned, that this hadith has mantuq and mafhum. Explicit, implicit. What is inferred? Yes. So implicitly, what we can infer from this hadith is that if at the beginning of Ramadan you don't have two testimonies, you cannot start Ramadan. Yes. And at the end of Ramadan, if you don't have 2 testimonies, you cannot end Ramadan. Okay. But the first one, where it is implied that if you only have 1, you cannot start fasting Ramadan, that is opposed by this evidence of Abdullah ibn Umar, which is mantuq, explicit. And mantuq takes precedence over mafhum. Okay. Explicit takes precedence over implicit and cancels it out. You cannot give precedence to mafhum over mantuq. No. So in this hadith, there are 2 mafhums. Yes, 2 mafhums. The first mafhum is for the beginning of Ramadan, that 1 is not accepted. And the second mafhum is at the end of Ramadan, that one is not accepted. But the one at the beginning of Ramadan is cancelled out by the hadith, explicit hadith of Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, which is very explicit. Yes, and which shows us, no, at the beginning of Ramadan, one is enough. One is enough. But at the end of Ramadan, it stays like that, because nothing has come to negate that or to oppose that. The second position, the hadith, you can say, let's say Nasa'i, reported by An-Nasa'i, reported by Ahmad. And the second one I mentioned is by Abu Dawood, 2339. And there's another one by Abu Dawood, 2338. So that's that. Okay, so what do we do of the, what do we say? So that's the way we answer these ahadith. According to the stronger position number one. Barakallahu feek. Okay, how do we, their qiyas, they do qiyas analogy. They say the beginning of Ramadan is the same as the end of Ramadan. This is a sighting of the moon, that's sighting of the moon. They are both similar. But we say that this qiyas is ma'al fariq. This is analogy, but this analogy cannot be applied because there's a difference. There's a fariq, yani, it's not the same reason. We cannot apply this qiyas. Why? Because sighting of Shawwal, you are going to exit an ibadah. But as for the sighting of the moon at the beginning of Ramadan, you are entering an ibadah. And what we have to be is we have to be careful. We have to be careful when it comes to ibadah. We have to be cautious. How can we be careful and cautious? We can be careful and cautious at the beginning of Ramadan by accepting one. By accepting one. So we say, oh, one is okay, that's it. Let's start Ramadan. You know, because Ramadan is limited time period. We should start it. We don't want to miss any days of Ramadan. We need to start Ramadan. At the end, we say the opposite. We say, no, we want two. Why? Because we want to make sure again for Ramadan that we don't miss any days. We don't want to exit Ramadan just with one. We want to make sure that extra emphasis we need that the Ramadan is truly ended. So we need two. So from each angle, we are being careful and cautious. So you cannot apply this qiyas because the beginning of Ramadan is different to the end of Ramadan. And in both cases, we need to be cautious and extra careful. Okay, so this is the main point of this hadith. Now, there are many other benefits which we are going to look at now, not very quickly, but we're going to look at them. Important information connected to this hadith. Now, okay. عدد الخروج من رمضان رؤية هلال الشوال. So now we have spoken about how many people we need for Ramadan to start. And the correct position is one. One trustworthy Muslim or Muslima or Abd or ila akhirih. Okay, what about leaving Ramadan? we've also touched on that. Now, we've also touched on that. Yani sighting of the new moon of Shawwal. How many people do we need? Then, as we mentioned, again, there are two opinions. The opinion of the Jumhur, the majority, and the opinion of the four madhabs. The four madhabs is that we need two trustworthy Muslims, as we have mentioned in the hadith of Raḥmān ibn Zayd ibn al-Khattab, and the other ahadith which I've also mentioned and give you the reference for. All of them explicitly state that for exiting Ramadan and the sighting of the new moon of Shawwal, you need two testimonies. Now, and that is the correct position. Of course, that is the correct position, although there is a second position which is weak, and that is, again, we can accept one. Even for Shawwal, we can accept only one, because it is the other end of Ramadan. It is, there are two sides to Ramadan, the beginning and the end. So it takes the same hukam. It will take, it therefore resembles the beginning, both sides of Ramadan. They are both sides of Ramadan. Both of them. This is one side of Ramadan, it's one side of Ramadan, so they take the same ruling. They resemble each other. So one is also enough for exiting Ramadan and Shawwal. Yes. So if you want to sum it up, you can say there are three positions. Number one is that Ramadan starts with 1 and ends with 2. Second position, Ramadan starts with 2 and ends with 2. Third position, Ramadan starts and ends with 1. These are three positions. Okay? And the correct and the strongest position, inshallah ta'ala, is what, as we have mentioned, is the first. That for the beginning of Ramadan, 1 is sufficient, inshallah. And for the end of Ramadan, must be 2. Now, and this was Shaykh Sulaiman Ruhaili also said in his explanation. He said, marking the beginning of Ramadan, 1 is enough. As for leaving Ramadan, then we need 2. And he said, this is for 2 reasons. Number 1 is the hadith that we have just mentioned of Raḥmān ibn Zayd ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhuma, that he said, فَإِنْ شَهِدَ الشَّاهِدَانِ فَصُومُوا وَأَفْطِرُوا. That if 2 witnesses testify, then fast at the beginning of Ramadan and stop fasting at the end of Ramadan. And we've mentioned that the beginning of Ramadan, we have another proof of Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma to negate that. But for the end of Ramadan, no, it stands as it is. It stands as it is. And now, also the second reason Shaykh Sulaiman Ruhaili mentions is that the original ruling for marking the beginning of any of the months is that it must be done by the testimony of 2 people. That is the asl. And Imam Tirmidhi has mentioned ijma' consensus upon this. Yes, not for Ramadan, obviously. There is no consensus for Ramadan. There's a difference that we mentioned, yes. But he has mentioned, Imam Tirmidhi has mentioned ijma' for all the other 11 months. That to mark the beginning of the other 11 months, which is including Shawwal, then there is ijma' consensus that we need 2. And Shaykh Sulaiman Ruhaili said, obviously, this is correct. except for Shawwal. There is again no consensus for Shawwal because some of the Tabi'een have mentioned that one is enough for Shawwal, as we have mentioned, yes? But Sheikh says this is marjuh. This is a weak opinion. Okay? This is a weak opinion. But the point here is that to the extent that Imam At-Tirmidhi mentioned there's an ijma' that all the other months except Ramadan, you need to mark the beginning of all the other months except Ramadan, you need 2 testimonies, including Shawwal. But Shaykh Sulaiman Ruhaili pointed out here, obviously this is not true for Shawwal because there is a valid difference, but it is weak. But it shows you that if Imam Tirmidhi has mentioned ijma', which also includes Shawwal, and which also includes Shawwal, it shows you that there's a very strong position that yani Shawwal can only be with 2 testimonies. Okay, that's just to emphasize that point. Yes, 2 male witnesses, yes. For the as far as I'm aware, it's 2 male witnesses now. Allahu A'lam. The next benefit which you can take from this hadith is that this hadith clearly shows us both of these hadith, they clearly show us what? That starting of the month of Ramadan is to be done by sighting of the new moon. Okay? And this is ijma', consensus. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whosoever amongst you sights the new crescent of Ramadan, then let him fast. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Sumu li ru'yatihi wa aftiru li ru'yatihi. Sumu li ru'yatihi. Start fasting when you see it. So this is how this hadith, another benefit you can take, that the beginning of Ramadan can only be established by sighting of the new moon of Ramadan. And if the new moon of Ramadan is not sighted, then what's the second step? Then we complete 30 days of Sha'ban, as we have mentioned previously. And so, if on the 30th night, yes, if on the skies are clear, then by ijma', and so what did we say? We said you cannot fast it. You cannot fast it, yes? And that you must complete 30 days by ijma'. However, if it's unclear on the 30th night, we mentioned the difference of opinion between the majority and the Hanabila, and we said the Rajih, the correct position, the position of the majority, is that no, Hanabila, they say that we must fast it, but the correct opinion and the majority is that we don't fast it and we still complete 30 days. Okay. The next benefit, the next question is, only one witness is required. It can be anyone, otherwise there needs to be 2 males. Yes, this is what I have understood from the speech of the ulama, and Allah knows best. Okay, the next point is, the next benefit is, if somebody sees the month of Ramadan by themselves, one person, he goes to the authorities, he goes to the ruler, the judge, or whoever is responsible to inform them, or responsible for these matters, to inform them that he has seen the moon, and they reject his testimony. They say, we don't accept your testimony. For whatever reason, maybe they see that he's not trustworthy, maybe they can't figure out who he is he trustworthy, is he not trustworthy, or they see that he's got fisk, is a fasik maybe, yes, or maybe the ruler and the authority, they are of the opinion that we need two. So that's also a valid opinion, that we need two at the beginning of Ramadan, yes. For whatever reason, his testimony is rejected. So the Muslims are not going to fast now. The Muslim, the country, the people are not going to fast because the ruler and the authorities, they're not going to announce it. They're not going to announce that, are they? They will reject his testimony. So now, people are not fasting. What about this person who saw the moon and his testimony was rejected? What happens to him? Should he fast or not fast? Should he fast or not fast? The majority of the scholars, the majority of the fuqaha, they say that he must fast. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Sumu li ru'yati, fast when you see it, and he has seen it. He has seen it. So he should fast, yani secretly. He doesn't want to, shouldn't come out and openly, declare to people that he's fasting. Just fast. Just fast without making an announcement. Yeah. So you don't, go against the jama'ah, the jama'ah of the Muslimun, who obviously are not fasting. Huh? So you can fast, but fast, yani, without making a big fuss about it, just fast. And this is the opinion also of Sheikh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah. The second opinion is that you don't fast. And this is also the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. He says that you do not fast. And these scholars, they say that you do not fast if your testimony is rejected. Why? Because they say that the Prophet ﷺ said, Sumu li ru'yatihi, fast when you see it. This is not an address for individuals. This is an address for everybody to fast together as a jama'ah. Nah? And the Prophet ﷺ also said, Sawmukum yawma tasumun. The day of your fasting is when people fast. The people are not fasting, so this is not a day of our fasting. Nah? So fasting, there is only going to be fasting when the jama'ah of the Muslimun are fasting. And this day is not a day when people are fasting. So it's not a day for fasting for anybody. Huh? Even if he has seen the moon. Why? Because what is to be considered, yani, it depends on not what these scholars say, it doesn't depend on that he sighted the moon. The beginning of Ramadan doesn't depend on him sighting the moon by himself and his testimony rejected. No, here the beginning of Ramadan, it depends on his testimony being accepted. So if his testimony for seeing the new moon is rejected, then there is no fast. Not for him, not for anybody else. And he is not to fast. As for Shaykh Uthaymeen, he says no. We fast at the beginning of Ramadan, he fasts, and we make it obligatory upon him to fast. Why? Because we have to be careful for Ramadan. He shouldn't, if he has seen the moon, he shouldn't be missing. If he has seen the moon, Ramadan has started for him, and he is not allowed to miss a day of Ramadan. But Shaykh al-Albani and Ibn Baz are of the other opinion, of the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah, that no. Because when you look at the proofs of fasting, then they are not, any fasting is an ibadah which is not restricted to individuals and applied to particular individuals. It's something which affects the ummah as a whole. So Muslims need to be together on this. Now, and as Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah says, that a shahr, month, shahr, cannot become a shahr illa idha ishtahar, except if it becomes well known, and it becomes well known, ishtahar, from shuhra. Shuhra means fame and to become famous and well known. So the shahr is taken from ishtahara. So he said that a month doesn't start until it becomes well known and public matter, and becomes public. And it can only become public and well known if the person's testimony is accepted and the authorities announce it. Then the moon, now it is the moon. And the shahr is a shahr. Okay? Because now it has ishtahar, become well known and spread and accepted by the Muslims. Okay, what about the other scenario, the next benefit, which is what happens if one person sees the moon of Shawwal at the end of Ramadan? What do we do now? And his testimony is rejected. So now for him is Eid. For him is Eid now. So should he in this case break his fast and not fast, or should he fast? The first opinion is that he must fast. He must fast because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ فَصُومُوا. When you see it, fast. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ فَأَفْطِرُوا. When you see it, stop fasting. So he saw it, he must stop fasting, but he must only do that in private and not oppose the Muslims openly and not make it apparent that he is not fasting. The second opinion is that no, he is not allowed to break his fast. He must continue fasting with the Muslimun. Why? Because, as we have mentioned, the correct position is that the beginning of Shawwal cannot be accepted except with the two testimonies. And here is only one person. So, Shar'an, according to the legislation, Shawwal hasn't even really started. Because for Shawwal to start, we need two people. Now, this is only one person. So, this person, he must stick with the Jama'ah, keep fasting with them, because this is also, if he does this, he will be sticking to the main body of the Muslims, will not cause any splits, and it shows that he's being careful for Ramadan. He's being careful for Ramadan so that he doesn't stop fasting before he's really supposed to stop fasting. And also they mentioned the evidence that we mentioned before many times, as-sawmu yawma tasumun, sawmukum yawma tasumun, wa fitrukum yawma tuftirun. That your fasting is when the people fast, and your breaking of the fast is when the people break their fast. نعم. And as for Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, then in both positions, whether it's at the beginning of Ramadan and a single person's testimony is rejected, or it is the end of Ramadan, single person's testimony for Shawwal is rejected. In both these situations, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is of the same opinion that this person is not to fast on his own, but he fasts with the Muslims and he breaks his fast with the Muslims. Huh? نعم. طيب. One male and two female witnesses sufficient? Allahu A'lam. I'm not sure. All I know is I read from Sheikh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah. He said, for the other months, there must be two male trustworthy Muslims. Okay. No, you cannot join them with the Ramadan. Ramadan, you cannot join anything with Ramadan. Ramadan is only Ramadan. After Ramadan, no, so you made another. You made a vow. So after Ramadan, complete your other 2 days. Yom Shak 30th Sha'ban only? Yes, that is Yom Shak. It cannot be the 29th because a month cannot be less than 29 days. The Yom Shak is the 30th day. Yom Shak is the 30th day. طيب. Okay, there's 2-3 more benefits. Let's quickly go through them, inshallah. The first one is there's a scenario. Okay. There's a scenario where people wake up thinking that they are still in Sha'ban. And then news reaches them that Ramadan has started. So the moon was sighted in its correct time, but news didn't reach them until the next day. So they wake up and they find out it's Ramadan. What do? They went to sleep thinking it's Sha'ban, they wake up, they find it's Ramadan. There's two things here. First is al-imsak, second is al-qada. Imsak to withhold from eating and drinking and everything that breaks your fast, and qada to make up the day. As for imsak, withholding on that day from eating and drinking and anything else that breaks your fast, then this is wajib. And this must be done. Because the Prophet said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمْ فَصُومُوا, when you see it, then start fasting. So now they have seen it, or they have heard that it's been seen. And the same thing happened when the Prophet when Yom Ashura, on the day of Ashura, when the Prophet ﷺ commanded them during the day to start fasting, to fast Ashura. So when this command reached them during the day, they immediately stopped eating and drinking everything that breaks your fast. And this is why there comes in a hadith in Sahih Bukhari on the authority of Salama ibn al-Aqwa radiyallahu an, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a man to the people, on the day of Ashura, to tell them that whosoever has already eaten, then let him then let him fast. Then let him complete this day fasting now. And whoever hasn't eaten, then let him not eat. So here the Prophet ﷺ commanded them during the day to start fasting. That's when the news reached them. And what did they do? They withheld from everything until the night. So they must withhold. As for qada, making the day up. So now just imagine, news reaches you 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, after sunrise, 9 o'clock in the morning. That's Ramadan. You stop fast. You start fasting. You stop everything else. You don't do anything that breaks your fast until Maghrib. Now, do you also have to make up this day, or is that sufficient? So the first opinion is that you must make up this day. Why? Because for your day to be accepted in Ramadan, your entire day has to be covered. Your entire day has to be covered. Okay? From Fajr till Maghrib. So if you did not make an intention before Fajr to fast, then you haven't fasted the whole day. Yes, you withheld from everything else that breaks your fast because of the sanctity of this month and the sanctity of this day. Sacredness is sacred. We don't want to violate its sanctity and its sacredness. Yes? So you will not be sinning because you didn't know. You won't sin because you did not make the intention before, because you never knew. Okay? But you have to make up the day. Why do you have to make up the day? Because you didn't establish a pillar of fasting, which is that you must make your intention before Fajr. And he didn't fast the whole day. He only fasted part of the day, so he has to make it up. Second opinion is opinion of Shaykh Rahman Taymiyyah rahimahullah. He also says, yes, you have to do imsak, you have to withhold. But he says you don't have to make up the day. Why? He said, because you eating and drinking before the news reached you, this was permissible for you. This was something permissible for you, and you did not violate the sanctity of this month. But you were ignorant. You didn't know. And you were acting upon the asl that it is still Sha'ban. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. O our Lord, don't hold us accountable if we forget or we make a mistake. If we forget or we make a mistake. So he said, يعني, you've done what was upon you. You have done what was upon you. You couldn't make the intention any earlier because you didn't know. And intention is based upon your knowledge of something. How can you make an intention for something which you have no knowledge of? But as soon as you found as Ramadan and you knew, you started fasting. You made the intention. Now, Tayyib. So now you have done what you were commanded to do. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Sumu li ru'yati, fast when you see it, and you've done that. And a person, when he's done what he's been commanded to do, is not to be asked to do it again. Is not to be asked to do it again. Now, so these are two main opinions when it comes to qada, making up the day. Making up the day. Okay. Just a second. Now. And so this is the position of Shaykh Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and I believe this is also a position of Shaykh al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah. But the position of the majority of most of the ulama is the first position, that you have to make it up, and that is also the madhab of the Hanabila. And that's also Shaykh Sulaiman Ruhaili mentioned that is the stronger opinion, that is to be done. So what do we do about the hadith of Ashura? What do we do of the hadith of Ashura? That the Prophet ﷺ, did the Prophet command them to make up the day? No, he didn't. So how do we respond to that? If we follow the first opinion, that you have to make up the day, and we have the Yom Ashura, where the Prophet ﷺ told them to start fasting during the day, but then he never told them to make that day up again. So the answer to this is quite easy. And that is, before then, Ashura wasn't even obligatory upon them. They only found out about the obligation of Ashura at that time. They had known prior knowledge that Ashura was even obligatory. It only was brought to their attention then that it is obligatory. Just like when in Quba they were praying, and during the prayer, a person came and he said that the Qibla has been changed towards Al-Kaaba, from Bayt al-Maqdis towards Kaaba. So during the prayer they changed. Although before they started their prayer, the Qibla had already been changed. So they started praying towards the wrong direction because the Qibla has already been changed. But as soon as they found out during the prayer, the obligation of change, it reached them at that time during the prayer. So they acted upon it. So this is why they were not asked to repeat that prayer. Nor were the people in Ashura asked to do qada, to make up that day. But as for Ramadan, no. When saying that when you go to sleep thinking it's Sha'ban and you wake up as Ramadan, You already know that Ramadan is obligatory upon you. You just don't know if it is Ramadan or not. But Ramadan is obligatory. It's already been obligated, so you cannot use that. You cannot use that. Huh? And also, there is no proof, in fact, that that the obligation of making up Ashura if you miss it and so on and so forth. There is no dalil. But to make up misfast Ramadan, there are many proofs for this. So you cannot compare the two. You cannot compare the two. Now, and there are other opinions as well. There's another third opinion, which is that so the first opinion is that you have to imsak and qada. Second opinion is you have to do imsak but no qada. The third opinion is there's no imsak. You keep eating and drinking because that's how you started your day and you finish your day like that, but you must do qada, make up that day. And there's another opinion, there is no imsak and no qada, which obviously is a very weak opinion, but it is out there, okay? The last benefit I want to mention, that the opposite scenario, okay? If people wake up and they are fasting, and they think that it's Ramadan, so they wake up, they have suhoor, they're fasting, they're carrying on the days, Ramadan, and then news reaches them that in fact this is the first day of Shawwal, and the moon has been sighted, but you didn't know about it. It is wajib, there is no difference of opinion here. It is wajib to break your fast because of Yawm al-Eid. But now, it's one of two things can happen. Either this news reached you before Zawal, before Zenith, before Dhuhr, and if you have enough time to come together and pray Eid, then you must do that. However, if the news reaches you after Zawal, after Dhuhr, then the following morning you pray the Eid prayer. Okay, so we're going to conclude with that. We'll finish with that point there. Allahu A'lam. Is this pillar intention before Fajr for Nawaf fasting as well? Okay, inshallah, that's a very good question. There's a hadith going to come. The next hadith is concerning intentions of obligatory fasting and the Nawafil fasting, and we're going to take it then. But in summary, we can say no. The Nawafil fast are different to the obligatory fasts, and so generally speaking, the obligation of making your intention before Fajr, it applies to the fast that obligatory, whether that is Ramadan, whether that is qada, making up missed days of Ramadan, whether that is a vow, nadhr, whether that's kafarat, expiation. As for the fast is a voluntary, then you don't have to make the intention before Fajr. However, again, within the voluntary fast is a difference of opinion depending on whether it is nafal mutlaq or nafal muayyan. Nafal mutlaq meaning just a general voluntary fast, and muayyan a specific one like the 6 days of Shawwal, Yawm Ashura, Arafah, Yawm Arafah, 6 days of Shawwal, Mondays and Thursdays, the 3 days of every month. If it's a specific one, specific nafal, then some scholars say you have to make intention before Fajr, and others say no, you don't have to make intention for any of the nafal. Although the Malikiyya, the madhab of Imam Malik and Ibn Hazm and so on, and Dawood al-Zahiri, and I think also Muzani from the Shafi'iyya, and they are of the opinion that no, any kind of fasting, whether it's obligatory or restricted or nafal mutlaq or nafal muayyan, whatever it is, you have to make your fast, your intention before Fajr. Inshallah, all this we will discuss in detail next week, inshallah. So we finish with that. Inshallah, I think you've had your as time for next has to be decided. It will be announced, inshallah, in the next 1 or 2 days. It shall be announced in the next 1 or 2 days. Bi'idhnillahi jalla wa ala. Khair, inshallah. Then we'll yes, regard the one who begs finding is still Ramadan. Not still Ramadan, yani it is Ramadan, because it was he went to sleep thinking it was Sha'ban. But second opinion for the Qada, and Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and also Shaykh al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah. طيب بارك الله فيكم خير إن شاء الله. والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.